This video is sponsored by IntoTheAM. Quite some time ago, I borrowed the Blood Angels color scheme for my Assault Intercessors. However, I want to borrow something a little bit more than just their colors, and take their Chapter Master and turn him into a horrifying Tyranid hybrid, but to the Genestealers, this will be the most beautiful angel ever. Initially, I picked out a bunch of different sprues that I thought would be useful, but it turns out this one had almost everything I needed. I wasn't sure where I was going to start with Dante, but I thought I'd work my way up. Somehow I never noticed this, but the open toe look is definitely a choice. Fortunately for him, I'll be replacing those feet with something a little bit more mutated and a lot more practical, the Tyranid hooves. As these legs are entirely different, I really wanted to first figure out where exactly I was going to connect it. Initially, I was going to make the cut right at the hoof area, but I really wanted to keep that really strange and disgusting looking Tyranid thumb, which honestly looked kind of cool. I made the cut slightly higher than what I thought I needed, just as a bit of wiggle room. Then to accommodate the strange mutation, I scraped out the ankle plate, leaving me with this very nice arch that I then mirrored and reversed on the foot with a claw. I did my best to remove as much of it as possible to make the connection feel a little bit more natural. Well, as natural as having a hoof, which turned out much better than I thought because initially I really thought I made a mistake and there was no way I could make them fit. And of course Dante would not have gone down without a fight, so his armor was gonna need a lot of battle damage. I wanted to have one big massive hole in his heart area to make it seem like that's the shot that disabled him, and then I worked on creating a bunch of little tiny marks to seem like a bunch of bolt rounds, claw marks, and just horrifying things that were happening to him as he was battling against the Tyranid swarm. I didn't remove any of the debris before applying the Tamiya, which I think makes the damage look a little bit more organic, as if it's just pieces of jagged metal. For his right leg and the right side in general, I wanted to go for a much more fully Tyranid aesthetic. What I found incredibly serendipitous was that the leg genuinely seemed like it was meant for this entire miniature. It was perfect in height, connection, down to the way it folded right before it was going to impact the cloth. Now, for the head, when I saw on Dante's sprue that the helmet came in several different pieces, I instantly had a pretty cool idea, which was to grab the most Tyranid looking head and attach one of those laurels to the side of it. And of course, to a Genestealer, this would be the most beautiful face. I scraped away a large portion of the cranium, as on the Genestealers, it is just far too inflated. Getting the connection right to make the laurel fit naturally took a bit of time, but it was really worth it because I just love the aesthetic. The moment I finally placed the head onto the body, it genuinely looked incredibly heroic. Hell, where do I sign up to fight for the Four-Armed Emperor? Something I really did not expect that I'll find a way to fit was the halo at the back. It's meant to attach to the helmet itself, however with a massive cranium there was simply no space. But after simply removing those ribbons, I was able to attach it to the back collar and it looked absolutely perfect. Or more accurately, divine. And as we are making a beautiful angel, he was gonna need some absolutely massive wings. When I was gonna attach the wings, initially I was gonna do something similar to what I did here. However, I realized that the jump pack was getting entirely in the way. So I thought of a strange solution, which is to attach the wings to the jump pack itself. Before I had that idea, I simply tried removing the turbines to see if I could make some space for the wings. But then I thought, what if I just try attaching the wings to the jump pack itself? Even though logically having the wings coming out of the jump pack feels a little bit bizarre, visually it just looked correct. Because all the parts fit so well together, I didn't feel the need to use green stuff or similar putty anywhere. I simply used a bit of sprue glue. We also need to represent the Genestealer cult in some way, so I took the medallion from the shotgun and replaced the purity seal on the pistol. Now I just need this as an unlockable in Darktide, and you've got a happy camper. Now with this hot summer upon us, you probably need something nice to wear, so check out the sponsor of today's video, IntoTheAM. They make these nice shirts that are comfortable to wear, and I've been wearing it for a couple years now, and they've been absolutely fantastic. They have a wide variety of different designs, so you could probably easily find something you enjoy. Personally, I thought this Lunar Canyon tee was pretty cool, and I got to see being hand-drawn. I don't usually go for Japanese-style art, but honestly, the samurai was absolutely fantastic, and the moment I saw him, I'm like, that's something I want to wear. I really appreciate the artistic talent to make something that is monochromatic work this well, and it feels like it has a lot more soul than something where just had a bunch of bright colors. So I just thought it looked really nice. More importantly, in the blazing heat of 32 Celsius outside right now, they're very breathable, which is something I really appreciate because there's nothing I hate more than a shirt that starts sticking to you the moment you go outside. So make sure to go IntoTheAM.com/ADM and check out some really nice shirts. You'll also get a 10% discount. Thanks for your time, and back to the video. After attaching the arm with the shoulder pad, I realized that for the second arm, I wanted to keep it as human as well. But it was not going to be a power axe. The blade horn of the Tyranid seemed like a perfect weapon and something that would be a much more interesting choice, as now this is a weapon weapon of fear, something that's a bit of a hybrid between a war pick and a scythe, that will be known as the Angel's Talon. As far as I know, most Tyranids have a tail. I didn't want to go for anything too big, so I found this one which felt like just the perfect size. And for the most exciting moment, it was time to attach the wings. Even though I thought it was done, I realized that I was missing a shoulder pad. I really wanted to do the exact same thing that I did with my Primus, which is to grab a Tyranid and just hollow it out like a shell, but I noticed that the head of the Tyranid I was using was already the perfect shape. I only made a tiny adjustment just so it sits a little bit better. And of course, instead of using his flying base, I wanted to do something a little bit different and, more importantly, a lot more thematic. By borrowing this from the extra Leviathan sprue I had, and also attaching a Genestealer power pack and a tiny little Reaper swarm at the back. Now with this absolutely horrific angelic monstrosity, the only thing left to do was paint him. I started by priming him in dioxazine purple, which always looks incredibly alien. Then as I was getting ready to start painting him, I realized that I wasn't supposed to glue on the power pack. I entirely forgot that now I somehow have to paint this thing. I wanted to go for something quite similar to my original color scheme, but I also wanted him to feel distinct and like a better version of them. And I started by making an entirely different gold, this time starting with Balthazar gold mixed in with burnt tin, and then adding a layer of bronze. And then dry brushing on a little bit of brass. Especially when you look at ancient gold that has been sitting in the ground for quite some time, it usually has quite a large spectrum of colors. And side by side with my simple Assault Intercessor's gold, this one looked a lot more rich and ancient. For the base, I used a lot of Warlord purple, which is this very strong magenta color. And it turned out much better than I thought, so I used the exact same technique to apply it to all the purple of my wings, which is quite a contrast to the cold purples I usually go for on these miniatures. For all of the wing insignia, I went for a dark transition from the sneer black to a very dark gray. For the head, I wanted to showcase a perfect transition between a human and a Tyranid, so I only painted the back section in the sickly pale color, while the frontal plate of the Tyranid chitin remained purple. Then I tried adding a bit of this magenta energy to the wings, which turned out much better than I thought. So I slowly transitioned it to the sunset color, which gave it a very nice hue. I thought about leaving the purple of the wings as it was, but it just didn't really look right to me. So instead, I treated it as a base tone and then slowly build up to the cold purple you see in the rest of my Genestealers. I also thought it'd be a pretty good idea to add this very strong red OSL to the base, as if the power pack has overheated and is now glowing red. And then I started painting up the weapons, which I knew would contrast really well with that red. Now, for part of the effect I usually go for, it requires a lot of airbrushing, which was surprisingly tricky because all the talons were right in the miniature, so I did my best to use my fingers and pieces of cardboard to try to make sure none of the paint accidentally spilled over onto the miniature. Then I worked on the final stages of making sure these weapons looked even better. And with that, he was done. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. So if you're looking for some great shirts for this summer, make sure to go to IntoTheAM.com/ADM and check out some really nice shirts, and you'll also get a 10% discount when you check out with the code ADM.